Welcome to my YouTube channel Lenin 8. So in this video, we are going to discuss about a Java program to print nth prime number. Means if the input is 1, the first prime number should be the output. That is, we have to print the output as 2. If the input is 25, then we have to print 25th prime number. Therefore, the output should be 97. And our logic is going to be a generic. Okay. Then for this, to understand the prime number logic, so I recommend to watch my previous videos. One is list of prime number. So where I have used the complete basic logic of prime. Then followed by in my another video of sum of prime numbers. Then I have used the improvised logic of prime numbers. So here also I am going to use the same logic just with one minute change or one additional condition we have to add to get nth prime number. So for better understanding, I recommend to watch these videos. Then to understand this nth prime, I'll clearly discuss about what are the differences. So first I am taking one variable which is of integer type and whose value for time being I am not taking, because logic will be always depends on the variable, not on the value. Output is depends on the value. That means if we give n is 1, then we should get the output as 2. And if we give n is 25, the output should be 97. That's why the value of n can be anything. Then followed by I am using one variable of integer type again, that is count prime is the variable name. So camel casing standard p should be capital, and I'm initializing this value to 0. Means I'm going to count how many prime numbers are there by using this variable. Then followed by, since we know it is a nth prime number and we don't know what is that nth value, it can be 1, it can be 25, it can be 100,000, any other value, right? Means we don't know what is that nth value. That's why it is always recommended to go for a while loop. So for while loop, the initialization should be outside the while. That's why I'm using int I equals to a value to start from 2, because no need to check for 1 is a prime number or not, because we are aware of 1 is not a prime number. Then followed by I'm using a while when this loop has to continue. Till when? That is, this count prime variable value, it will be less than we have to continue, or if it is equals to n we have to continue. Once it reaches more than n, we don't want, because that nth prime number only we have to print it. That's why I'm using a while loop, initialization outside, and this is the condition which I'm writing. Then inside this while loop, this is same as like our outer for loop in the previous logics. For loop with I variable, so same kind of. Then inside this one, I am taking a variable int with variable name called count equals to 0 to initialize. This is used to count the number of factors. Then we can decide it's a prime number or not. Then followed by, so what is the next one? We use J for loop, right? So here also the same thing. For int J should be starting from 2 to reduce the number of iterations, and the J should be less than or equals to I by 2, which we already discussed, Y and all. Then followed by J plus plus. So inside this J loop, so what's the purpose of it? To count the number of factors. So if I modulo J double equals to 0, then here we are going to count the number of factors, only count plus plus. Then followed by for loops close of this inner for loop. Then here is the place where we used to write the logic of printing prime numbers, logic of printing a sum of prime numbers. Then the same place inside while loop, but outside this for loop. So I'm using this place to write the continuation of it. So here I'm taking one condition. If with this logic of I value 2 and j should be 2 and j should be less than or equals to I by 2, then if the number of factors are 0, that is if count equals to 0, then we say it's a prime number, correct? But instead of printing prime number, so here is the difference from the previous logics. So I am counting number of primes. So that is by using this variable. Previously we initialized to 0, and now here I'm writing count prime plus plus. If it is a count prime plus plus, then inside the same if condition, when we have to stop it, once that reaches to our input value, any of this input value, that's why I'm writing a condition. If this count prime reaches to programmer input value called as n. Then what we have to do? We have to print that nth prime, right? That's why inside this if I am writing system.out.println, print in which variable the prime number is there. Is it in variable I or j? It will be always in I only. So we get the meaningful statement. We can print that variable name called I. So once we got the nth prime number, the loop has to continue. No need. Therefore, here I am using a break statement. Break will break the current loop. So where this break statement we are writing, inside for loop or inside while loop? Outside for loop, but inside while loop, this will break the entire while loop. Means the control will come out of the while loop as well. So this is closing of this if, and then followed by closing of this outer if. So then what we have to do last? We have to close the while loop as well. But in while loop, so once we take a variable called I and a condition, where is incrementation? So that is where one more important point. We should not forget this one. That is I plus plus I am writing here. After this, we have to close the while loop. So then here is the closing of my while loop. Yeah. So this is the logic of printing nth prime number. I hope it is clear. And let us execute the same thing by using Eclipse IDE. So here I have taken a class name called nth prime with the main method, and I'm using a scanner class to read that n value from the keyboard. And then I'm using a count prime variable whose value will be initialized to 0. Then int I equals to 2, because for while loop we need the initialization outside the while. Then here I'm using a while, and the count prime should be less than or equals to n. So till this point of time the loop has to iterate. That's why. And here I'm taking one count variable whose value equal to 0. Then I'm using inner for loop to write the j initialization and j condition and j incrementation. Then we are using this loop to count the factors. That's why if I modulo j double equals 0, then count plus plus. So followed by, so if count equals 0, so this means it's a prime number. So but instead of printing it, I'm counting the number of prime numbers by using this variable. Then if that count of prime reaches to programmer input value called n, then I'm using a print statement. The prime number is the corresponding I value. So once we got this output, the loop no need to continue. Therefore, I'm using a break to break the while loop. Then here, after this inner if condition, after this outer if condition, then before we close while, I'm incrementing the I value. Then followed by scanner class is one of the system resource. So I'm using a AC.close connection. Then followed by closing of main and closing of the class. Right. Now let us save this code and let us execute by control F11, or you can use the shortcut icon. So I'm clicking on this. Then a console pop-up is saying us to enter a number. So let me enter a number called 1. Means what? First prime number you have to print. What's first prime number? The output is 2. Right? Let me re-execute by control F11, or you can use the shortcut again. So I'm executing it. Then I'll enter this time a number called as 25. So what is our expected output? 97 is the 25th prime number. Then the same way you can enter any number by re-executing it. And since this is a generic logic, I am entering input called as 100. Then 100 prime number should be our next output, which is 541. I hope it is clear. And if you have any questions, please post in the comment sections, and I'll be explaining the logic, or I'll be making a video on that questions as well. Thank you.